The day the family arrived at their new home, everything felt like a dream. They'd finally found the perfect house, a beautiful, sprawling Victorian on the edge of a quiet neighborhood, with ornate wooden details, ivy-covered walls, and towering bay windows. It was everything they'd hoped for after recent hardships. As they stood together on the front steps, each of them silently believed this could be their new beginning. Inside, the house was grand yet oddly cold, as if waiting for someone to fill its empty halls. The mother admired the intricate wallpaper, faded but elegant, and the father admired the solid woodwork. The teenage daughter, sensitive and often quiet, felt as though the house was watching her, its walls like eyes following her every move. The youngest, her little brother, ran through the hallways, laughing, his voice echoing faintly down the dim corridors. Small quirks, like the creak of floorboards and a faint chill in the air, felt like normal traits of an older home, easily dismissed. The family settled in, brushing off any hint of foreboding as mere excitement. But within days, small details began to unsettle them. The daughter was the first to notice the whispers, soft, almost imperceptible, as if they slipped through the walls like a faint breeze. At first, she thought the whispers were just the wind or her imagination, but they grew more frequent, and sometimes she could swear they murmured her name. One night, the mother felt something brush past her in the hallway, like a gentle sigh of cold air, but when she turned, no one was there. She tried to laugh it off, but unease crept in as the whispers persisted. Meanwhile, the young son began mentioning a friend he'd met in the house, someone he talked to at night when everyone else was asleep. The father dismissed it as an imaginary friend, but each time he heard his son's soft whispers from the dark hallway, he felt his pulse quicken. These occurrences were easy to brush off individually, yet together, they began to weigh on each of them. The air in the house grew heavier, thick with something unspoken, something waiting. The whispers persisted, growing louder, filling their nights with a strange presence they couldn't ignore. It was as if the house breathed with them, each inhale and exhale in sync, like a lullaby of dread that kept them restless and on edge, each of them feeling a strange discomfort creeping in. Night after night, they fell into disturbed sleep, only to be met with horrific dreams. The mother would wake, gasping, from dreams of drowning, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The father dreamed of being trapped behind doors that wouldn't open, as though the house mocked his attempts at escape. The daughter wandered her nightmares lost in endless halls, mirrors reflecting shadows that loomed closer each night. Even the young son would wake up screaming, calling out for help from his unseen friend. These nightmares gnawed at their spirits, and by day, the family drifted apart, each lost in their own fear. Tension rose with each uneasy glance and sharp exchange of words, their unity fraying, as the house amplified every resentment, every insecurity, as if it thrived on their unease, growing stronger each day. One evening, unable to resist the pull of mystery, the daughter decided to explore the attic. She'd heard faint scratching sounds coming from above, as if calling her name. Dust motes floated in the stale air as she searched through the boxes piled in every corner. Her heart skipped as she uncovered a small, leather-bound diary and a bundle of old photographs, each photo yellowed with age. Flipping through the diary, she realized it belonged to a former tenant, who wrote of hearing voices in the night, just like they did. The tenant described feeling claimed by the house, of losing their sense of reality and never feeling truly alone. In one photograph, the family was posed in front of the house, their faces blank, eyes distant, each member looking lost, as if filled with hopelessness that felt all too familiar. She showed the diary to her mother, who read it with trembling hands. The unease spread through the family, settling in like a sickness, but leaving felt impossible. The house seemed to hold them in place, filling them with doubts about each other and themselves. Every creak and whisper seemed like a message, as if the house itself knew their secrets and was drawing them deeper into its grasp. With the truth of the house's dark past haunting them, the strange occurrences only worsened. The father, who had always been skeptical, began experiencing terrible hallucinations. He'd catch glimpses of shadowy figures in mirrors or feel a cold hand on his shoulder when no one else was around. The mother felt trapped, as though the walls were closing in on her, and her breaths grew shallow, her will fading. The daughter grew insistent, begging her parents to leave, but her pleas were drowned out by arguments that seemed to erupt without reason, as if the house wanted them at odds. And through it all, the son's friend became more demanding, his whispers more frequent. Each family member felt alone, trapped in their fears, as if their realities were twisted by the house's tightening grip. In a last, desperate effort, the family discovered a hidden basement while searching for answers. The air was thick with decay, and the walls lined with old belongings, clothing, toys, broken frames, all relics of families who had once lived there and had apparently never left. Their blood ran cold as they realized the full horror. The house had consumed them, trapping them just as it had trapped others. Suddenly, the walls seemed to close in, hallways stretched impossibly long, and the doors refused to open. The lights flickered, casting shadows that twisted and mocked their fear. Driven by terror, the daughter remembered a boarded-up window in the attic. Pulling her family together, she led them through the dark maze, each step feeling like it sank deeper into the house's grasp. They reached the window and, with strength born of desperation, smashed through the boards, stumbling out into the cold night air. Behind them, the house seemed to sigh, almost disappointed, as they escaped. Though they'd left it behind, the family was changed forever. Their bodies were free, but their minds remained haunted, unable to shake the memories of what had happened inside. They moved to a small apartment in the city, far from the house, yet shadows lingered in every room. The mother would hear faint whispers in silence, the father felt a chill each time he glanced in a mirror, and the daughter could never shake the feeling of being watched. Worst of all was the young son, who sometimes spoke to his friend in the darkness. His voice was barely a whisper, as if the house was still with him, a piece of it forever tied to their family. The final scene fades to the house, empty but alive, a faint glow from within, as if it's waiting for its next family, its next victims to welcome into its endless, haunting embrace.